Cool. All right. So we're going to jump right into it. And we're going to talk about how to break free from bad relationship patterns today. And ultimately, we're going to talk about fixing the disorganization and the disconnection that sneaks into our lives, and how do we correct that. So as we talk about this, I'm going to give you a couple stories, a couple scenarios. And the first one that I'm going to jump right into is this is my wife. This was on our wedding days, one of the best and one of the hardest days of my life. And I'll tell you that story some other time. But I want to share this story with you because this process allows for an opportunity to talk about what's going really well in your relationship as well as what's not going so well in your relationship. And I share this because my wife is a paramedic and she's been doing this for most of her adult life. And she's seen some pretty awful things, and she can't unsee some of the things that she's had. And she seems to be a blue baby magnet. She's had more blue babies on her calls than any of her colleagues, and it's taken a toll on her mental health. So she had 3 calls recently. She got some help. She went to a therapist, and then she had a spell of just regular calls. A lot of other things happened, but these babies really kind of get to her soul. And when we went through our process, which I will show you our process towards the end, when we go through our process, we identified that her mental health and work for her is a threat, and for her as a human, for our relationship, how we connect, how we disconnect. And we put it on her to-do list, or she put it on her to-do list to find a new therapist. Because she knew she was not leaving this job. She knew that new things were going to come up. So this is a threat. So this is something that she was able to set a goal around. I need to find a new therapist. And then she was able to take action on it. And thankfully, she took action when she did, because it was on our to-do list for 2 quarters in a row. And she followed through, and then she had a 4th blue baby. So a tough job. But I can tell when she starts to disconnect, because she starts aggressively driving. She doesn't listen when she asks a question. They're triggers, they're things. And I'm like, oh, you should probably make an appointment. She's like, yeah, you're right. So that's the power of the process that I'm going to show you today, is that you have this line of communication that is open, and you can identify things that potentially could be threatening to your relationship, and you can take action to make sure that those things continue to make your relationship stable. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So maybe you had a stress test in your relationship recently. Death of a family member, maybe grandma's sick, holidays are around the corner. That's always stressful. We all went through COVID-19. We're still recovering from that. Change in work environment. I know a lot of people are working from home these days. That's a big change. It's a big shift. Children, I don't have any on purpose, and I appreciate those who do have children. That is a task. Just the smaller stuff, like who determines who's cleaning or cooking or keeping the house running. Those can all be stressors, and those can be stress tests in your relationship. So some things that people try to connect with, a lot of times people will try like couples therapy or individual therapy, or maybe an EAP program through work, self-help books, listening to Dr. Oz on the TV. A lot of people will try to ignore it, and then it just builds and builds and builds and builds. I know a couple people that have tried alcohol, drugs, workaholic, loves going to the gym. I don't know if any of these are hitting the nail on the head for you, but these are, if any of these things that I've said are resonating, it's because these are from my clients. These are things that people have actually tried. And sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. What I'm going to show you today is something that is extremely healthy and helpful. So in the bullet points of the webinar, I said I was going to talk a little bit about divorce and what it can do to your business and your relationship, and what does that look like. And so we're going to dive right into that here. And the interesting part that I found, these statistics are all coming from the CDC, and that 99% of couples who get married, they never think that they're going to get divorced. Yet 67% of couples over a 40-year period will leave their marriage for one reason or another. And most of those marriages only last about 8 years. So that's what, a little over 30% that's going to survive a lifetime. And I think that that statistic is heartbreaking. And I think that we can do better. An interesting statistic also is that divorce month is in January. We're coming up on divorce month. It's usually the second week in January. And it is, I think it's usually like the 12th through the 16th. That's when attorneys get back in the office. That's when people can actually file. So people get through the holidays, they just sweep everything under the rug until January, and then they pull the trigger. So we're coming up on that. Let's, I'd love to be able to prevent some of those filings if possible. So some of the reasons why do people get divorced? Why do people split? Why is there such disconnect? Lack of commitment, they argue too much, infidelity, unrealistic expectations, that's a huge one. Lack of equity in the relationship. At the end of the day, it's all about communication, right? So these, again, are from the CDC, and these are the top reasons people split. So at the end of the day, it's really, it comes down to ineffective communication. And it can seem like it's some of these root causes. It's a lack of focus from the important things, like other things start to sneak into the relationship, not feeling wanted or secure in the relationship. And sometimes people are just immature when they get married. Sometimes there's a growth factor that happens, and one partner grows, the other one doesn't, or they both don't grow and they don't know how to communicate. Blaming. We'll talk about ground rules in a little bit. Blaming is definitely one of those ground rules that we'll chat about. Here's a big one. Mismatch in values and principles. That goes right down to the crevice of who we are as people. So we're going to talk about core values. And okay, this is I'm going to get on a soapbox for a second. The misconception that relationships are 50-50. I got to ask, where's the other 50% going if you're only putting 50% into your relationship? It drives me nuts. So I beg people to put 100% into their relationship. If you have 100%, 100%, you have 200% in the relationship, it makes for a much easier conversation. If you're only putting half of your effort, I have to ask, where's it going? Where's the other half going? And this one's a little bit difficult. Belief that love is all that you need. So I think love is important, but I also know that I can't pay the bills with love. Children need discipline. I need discipline. We need to be able to converse about things. We need to be able to pay things with money. So love is great, but love is not the end all be all. So all of those come down to ineffective communication. Sorry, I have a scratchy throat. I woke up with a scratchy throat this morning. All right, so cost of divorce. So on average, according to the CDC, the average divorce cost in the United States is $15,000. And I did some digging. I contacted a couple of my attorney friends, and I asked about the process. I asked, excuse me, what does it look like? What does it cost? And they said that the majority of the time, the filing, yes, is about $15,000. But you still have mediation. If you have kids, if you have a business, if you have things that need to be split, that settlement needs mediation. And mediation costs about $2,000 per hour. And on the minimum like level, it's about 6 to 8 hours of mediation per divorce. So you're already looking at, I mean, if we did some of the math, 2,000 times 8 hours, you're looking at about $16,000 just in mediation, and then you still have to file on top of that. So the cost could be quite heavy. And then what could it do to your business? Well, first and foremost, this is not a legal webinar. I am not an attorney. I contacted some attorneys to talk about this, but I am not an attorney. So if you have questions, call your attorney and make sure that you are getting the right answers for your business. But to give you a kind of a taste, if your spouse decides to leave, or you decide to split, what I want to ask some questions like, what is that going to do to the operations of your business? Where is your mental state? How is that going to distract you from the day-to-day of your business? Especially if your spouse or your partner is in the business, working in the business with you. And we see that often with entrepreneurs. What if your finances are intermingled and your spouse takes a stake of that business? Or worse, that the government or the court says, settlement wise, your spouse gets a portion of your business and they have nothing to do with your business, and then they sell their shares to somebody you don't know or you don't trust. That is a real possibility, and that happens. So to mitigate those things, contact your attorney, make sure that your business entity is solid, make sure you have in place with your attorney, if shares are split between you and your spouse, who can those shares be sold to? Get a post-nup. You can do prenups, but get a post-nup. Say that the business is off limits. And this is something that all business owners should do, and I see it often that it doesn't happen. Keep your business and your personal finances completely separate. Don't intermingle anything. Once it's intermingled, then it's part of the relationship. It's part of your personal life, and that means that it could be part of the settlement. So again, I'm not an attorney. Go call your attorney if you're in the situation. But big question, can you afford to buy your spouse out of your business? So I want to ask, what would you give to live life in full confidence that you remain happy, secure, and excited about the future with your partner, and it's not going to affect your business? What would you give? That's like the ultimate scenario, right? That's what we want to see. What would your relationship feel like if you had an open and safe forum to air grievances and celebrate wins? What if you could talk about anything? What if you had a place to talk about like your hopes and your dreams? Not just the little ones, but like the big bucket list items. What if you had tools to game plan together? That would be kind of cool. What if you had a teammate, so like an accountability partner that is going to make sure that you're staying on track and you're meeting the goals that you want to meet? What if you actually could see the progress happen? What kind of relationship would that be? That would be awesome. Yes. Yes. If you say yes, if you're following me, make sure you say yes in the chat. I want to make sure that chat is working. Yay, 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 yay. Cool. Thank you. Cool. So my intention today is I want to show you how to hack your relationship. So we want to talk about the connection, the acceptance, the security, understanding, which then moves us into that deep love, passion, and prosperity, but then goes even further into that freedom, impact, and legacy that allows your business to thrive. So I'm hoping that I'm going to introduce a couple of concepts that you may or may not have heard before. I hope that you have heard them. Here's the crux. Most people don't take action on them. And I'm hoping that I can give you a couple of small micro steps that you can take to actually take action. So this is not rocket science, but it does take a little bit of effort. So action is the key. All right, so as one of those bullet points that I promised in this webinar is that I will show you the blueprint to achieve all the positives you want in your life without arguing or fighting. And I know that sounds like a big promise, but when you see the process, and if you ever go through the process, it's amazing. All right, so my goal is not to put more on your plate. My goal is to take stuff off of your plate, to give you back more time. And this process allows for that. So we get rid of some of the frustration, we get rid of the wasted effort, so you have more time for the important things in your business. So this will help you free up your mind and give you more capacity for the fun stuff. One of the questions that always comes up, like if this is a process, I'm gonna take it. Sorry about my throat. One of the questions that comes up is that if this is a process, doesn't that take all the spontaneity out of the relationship? The answer that people don't expect is that actually it creates more spontaneity because you have more time. All the little things are taken care of. There's no fighting, there's no arguing, and you have more space to do the fun things. And I talked about action. So a little bit of effort on the front end will create huge rewards on the back end. So a little bit on the front end, big rewards on the back end. Some things, sometimes people say, you know, my relationship's pretty good, but we're kind of struggling. We're struggling to connect on the small things. We're struggling to connect on some of the big things. And this process that I'm going to show you will help with that. Some people are finding themselves when they come to me is that they're fighting more often, or they're finding that they're not speaking for days at a time because of some trigger. Some of my clients in the past have said they're afraid to bring up certain topics because they know it's going to create a fight. It's created fights over and over again, so they haven't resolved whatever's going on. Some people have said that they dread coming home from work, so they become workaholics. They stay at work all the time. Insecurity usually sneaks in, and sometimes you ask if your partner really loves you. And then there's so the different color means that there's kind of a shift. There are two types of people that like to use this process, and it's the people that are on the verge of separation. They're frustrated, they're having a hard time, and then there's these people that are doing pretty good, but they just need a little boost, and that's where relationship's good, but maybe it's a little stale, maybe it's a little boring. Maybe some distractions have snuck in. Distractions, I don't know, extra work time, hobbies, friend down the street, alcohol, like things kind of sneak into the relationship, and how do we address those? Some people just want more understanding and maybe a little bit more sexy time, more passion. And some people just don't know how to take the next step. That's it. And I'll show you how to do that. So you're in the right place if you really want to strengthen the foundation and the communication with your partner. That's what we're going to talk about. And also, I want to talk about if divorce is part of your story, I'm not here to shame you. This process shows you the authenticity that's happening in your life and the truth that's happening in your life. And if that is your truth and that is your right path, then this process helps you with that as well. So there's no shame when that decision needs to be made. So we're as promised, I'm going to cover the bullets the best that I possibly can. We're going to talk about the 4 habits of successful relationships, and I'm going to introduce you to the system that I keep talking about, the quarterly method system, and then some action steps. So as I mentioned, I am not an attorney. I am not a therapist. I'm not a couples therapist. I am a strategist. And my background is in EOS, lean startup, all the business stuff that makes a business go. But I've been able to translate this into more of a relationship scenario. So I'll show you as we go through. But it's really about how do we figure out what we want, how do we create a plan, and how do we make it happen. All right, so why you should pay attention. Well, for those of you who are on, I'm very grateful. I hope you do get a lot out of this. One of the reasons that I encourage you to stay on is because healthy relationships create happipiness and longevity. And there was a study done at Harvard. It was the Harvard Study of Adult Development, and it's still ongoing. I was just trying to, the other day I was looking it up, and the initial pool of individuals were, unfortunately, were all men, but we can still extrapolate quite a bit of information just from that, from the men. There were 724 men that were enrolled in this program, and they're followed throughout their lifetime, and they're asked to come in and fill out questionnaires every 2 years. And my understanding is there's about 60 men still in the study, so it's ongoing. But the two things that study has given us to this point is that the people who are happiest and have the best lives and are excited about living, they don't sweat the small stuff. That's number one. Number two, good relationships keep us happier and healthier. Full stop. That's it. Good relationships keep us happy and healthier. So that's why you should pay attention. However, I know that there are some people that I want something, I need to touch something. So I have a holiday survival guide kit here for you. I'll give you that link towards the end. It has some gift giving ideas. It has talks about survival 101. It talks about relationship survival. So it's it talks about also 5 love languages. I don't know if you've heard about those. So pretty cool stuff. And I will give that to you towards the end. So hold on to the end. Cool. So as I mentioned, results are the outcomes of the effort you are willing to put in. So if you're willing to put the work in, then please stay on. If you want somebody to hand it to you, nobody can do that for you. I don't want to waste your time. It might be a good idea to jump off at this point. But when it comes to relationship, there's no silver bullet to have the most incredible relationship. It's really about how much effort are you willing to put in, and how much are you willing to look at yourself to be the best human that you can be. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So it's a little bit like following a recipe, like baking a cake. You still have to you can have the full recipe, you can have all the ingredients all around you, but you still have to take action by combining the ingredients. You have to stir it up, you have to turn on the oven, you have to put it in the oven, you have to pay attention to the oven so you don't burn it. So there's some like small action steps that have to take place. They're not overwhelming. You can do this, but you still have to physically make things happen. If that makes any sense. All right, so let's jump right into the 4 habits. So 4 habits of the relationship, 1 of 4. We talked a little bit about this earlier. Having a safe place or process to air grievances and celebrate wins. That's number 1. This is how you have the opportunity to broach tough topics, you have real conversations, and you don't have to argue about it because you've scheduled it. There's a process that goes around it, and emotions are lower when you schedule it. Emotions are even keel, so you can have a real conversation. So when triggers happen, things happen, you already have a plan. You already know how you're going to handle the situation. So you want to be able to address things beforehand. And this is a place where you can feel safe and secure. And when you feel safe and secure, you can start to feel loved and honored. And it's really a difficult thing when you try to resolve things when there's high emotion. So a quick story. That's me. That's you can tell it's this gap in the teeth. I don't know where the blonde hair went, but that really is me. So in my childhood, my folks, they didn't have this process. They didn't know what to do. Every day, I have 2 siblings, so the 3 of us, we were constantly walking on eggshells. We didn't know if it was going to be a good day. We didn't know if it was going to be a bad day. There was constant resentment. There was always anger, unfairness, tempers flying, blame going back and forth between my parents. And it would come up at the worst times. It would come up at like just before a holiday event, or we have to go to like a school play or something. My parents would just be at each other. And us kids, we would be like, is it okay to say something? Are we gonna get yelled at? Or worse? We just never knew what kind of situation we were going to be in. And that caused childhood trauma. I've been to therapy, lots of therapy. I say I'm not a therapist, but I appreciate therapists quite a bit. So creating a scenario in your world where things are pretty even keel and everybody knows what the score is, that's helpful for everybody in the relationship, not just the two partners. So the scenario when I was a kid was not fantastic, and that's part of the reason that led me down this road. So here's the framework to habit number 1. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the frameworks due to time. So step 1, agree with your partner to strengthen your relationship. That's step number 1. These are tangible takeaways that you can do right now if you want to write these down. Each of these 4 habits, I think about 4 steps, and they're not hard to do. Number 1, agree with your partner that you want to strengthen your relationship. Number 2, schedule some time dedicated just to you so you can talk about it. Talk about whatever you need to, but schedule the time. Ground rule. Number 3. So own your emotions. We'll talk about this again later, but there's no blaming in a healthy relationship. Nobody can feel what you feel. You are completely responsible for your own emotions. Perfect example. We have a stop sign on the corner here. We live on a corner. We are in a neighborhood. It's a cute little neighborhood. We're definitely not on a main road. There is a school down the road, but we have a 4-way stop at our corner. My emotions, my trigger is when people don't stop at that damn stop sign. It does not affect anybody else. The other neighbors don't care. The driver doesn't care. I'm the one that's pissed off. I'm the one that has to own that. I'm the one that has to do something about my own emotions. I mean, turn my back, not watch the stop sign, close the garage door so I don't see it, call the city. I can take action. It's nobody else's problem that is a trigger for me. I own it. That's an example. So owning your emotions. And then step 4 on that is trust the process. Start with the small stuff. Start with the good things. Start with, hey, we had this win today. Or, you know what, I was really happy that X, Y, or Z happened. And then start easing into the more difficult stuff. Start with easy stuff. Allow the process to guide you into the harder stuff. So that was 1 of 4. And many times this is where people say, I don't have time for this. This is, you said you're going to save time. Going to save time, I promise. Make this an event. Date day, a walk with your person, something where you're focused on this, because this will take up so much time later if you don't address it now. So make it an event though. It's way easier to make sure you attend a party or a dinner event that somebody else has scheduled than it is for you to follow through on something that you scheduled. Just put it in your mind like you're going to a party, or this event is non-negotiable. Just go do it. All right, number 2 of 4, using your voice to express your true thoughts and desires, and using your ears to really hear what your partner is saying. Okay, so I have a pair of clients, a couple, and one is extremely noisy and one is extremely quiet. How they've made it this far, quite interesting. That's neither here nor there. But the point is that they couldn't be more opposite. They didn't know what each of them, how they felt loved. So the noisy one, always just talk, has said how she feels to her partner But because she talks all the time, her partner tuned her out, did not hear what made her feel loved at all, just completely tuned her out. She didn't use her ears. On the flip side, the quiet one never used her voice, never spoke up. So she never expressed what makes her feel loved. So neither of them were giving their partner what they need as far as love languages. And by the way, do you know what your love language is? If you know what your love language is, put it in the chat. For those of you who are familiar with love languages, you know that there are 5 different love languages. Primary, then there's a secondary, but we're talking about the primary. So if you know what your love language is, go ahead and throw it in the chat. All right. Words of affirmation. I love it. So we'll get into that just a little bit later too, as long as I stay on track with time. So the point is noisy and quiet, that one didn't use their ears, one didn't use their voice, and they were misconnecting even though they loved each other dearly. So we want to be able to express and hear our partner. So they're a work in progress, but they're doing a lot better. Here's the framework. But number 1 step for this habit, you have to reflect and understand what you truly believe. You have to understand what makes you what drives you and what's important to you before you can take another step. So you have to reflect on yourself. And then you have to be brave to be authentic, be yourself, own it, and know that it's okay. All right, we have another ground rule. All right, step number 3. Remember that you both are vulnerable when you're having these conversations. So you need to be respectful. Be willing to give and discuss how you really feel, but also recognize that your partner's in an uncomfortable situation, just like you are. And sometimes it's hard to use your voice. Sometimes it's hard to come fully through with what you want to say. So be patient with each other. And number 4, avoid manana syndrome. Oh, who's heard of manana syndrome before? Yeah, don't procrastinate. Don't push it off till tomorrow, manana, tomorrow. Don't push it off till tomorrow. Do it today. Do it right now. Write that one down. All right, so we got 3 of 4 habits. Avoiding sacred cows. And you're gonna be like, what the heck is a sacred cow? So sacred cows are the things that, it's the elephant in the room that you ignore, that you sweep under the carpet, and you just kind of suffer in silence. And it can build up to be a much larger thing than it really is. So it's sacred cows are those things that you avoid talking about at all costs. You ignore them because it's easier, it's less embarrassing. Maybe you're not sure how to bring it up. Maybe you've learned in the past because of a fight that it's just a no-no topic and you just leave it alone. So one example is maybe your mother-in-law is just like way overbearing, but your partner thinks it's totally normal, and that conversation never goes well. That could be a sacred cow. Another sacred cow from a client, an example was that one partner did not feel sexy in their own body. They felt like they had put on some weight. They had gone through some chemotherapy. There were a number of issues around that, but they really didn't feel good. And they didn't want to have sex with their partner. And they didn't want to talk about it because it was so uncomfortable and so embarrassing. So that could be a sacred cow. So avoiding sacred cows. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip this story. Here is the framework. All right, step 1 for this habit, another ground rule: no sacred cows between you and your love. No sacred cows. I want to ask you, what is being killed by ignoring the sacred cows right now in your relationship? Is that passion? Is it security? Is it that close connection? Sacred cows are a no-no. All right, step number 2, it's really identifying what are those sacred cows. So who's considered exempt in your relationship? What are those sacred cows? And why are they exempt? What's the reasoning? And then the last step in this one is creating a plan to discuss them, creating a plan to deal with the sacred cows, and having the courage to really talk about them. All right, moving on to 4 of 4. Not allowing everything else to take priority in your relationship. So making sure that your time and attention is not hijacked. That's habit number 4. And again, for sake of time, I'm going to skip this particular story, but know that it involves making sure that the important things in your life are taken care of, and the things that don't matter are let go. And I have a quick tool for you, and it'll be here in just a couple slides. So here's the framework. Step number 1, decide what's important to you. I know that seems simple, but think about it for a minute. What's really important to you? Like this scenario, this was letting the dog out to go to the bathroom. Yeah, that's important, but is that worth my business failing because I'm not there, because I'm running back and forth to the house? No, I'd rather get a nanny for the dog. So decide what's most important to you. And then just say, here's the tool. Here's the tool. So usually I go through an exercise with this tool, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to. This tool, I've created a link, and I'll give you the link when you get the survival guide. It'll be on that page. You can download the tool. The tool is very self-explanatory. What you want to do is you want to list all the things that are happening in your week. And then you need to decide, should you automate it? Should you eliminate it? Or should you delegate it? Those are your 3 options. And you can get a lot of stuff off of your plate, and you save a ton of time, and you only focus on the things that are really, really important. You can do this for your personal life. You can do this for your business. You can do this for your employees. This can be a helpful tool in a couple different scenarios. So I will give you a link for that tool. All right, so step number 3 for this habit is making sure you're setting aside the time, a day or so, the logistics, figure out the logistics, and then go do it. Eliminate it, automate it, or delegate it. Set it up. And then this is the hard part. Here's the hard part. Preserve the time that you've reserved for yourself. Preserve the time that you just got back. Don't let other distractions creep back in. Is this resonating? Is this making sense? Yes? Let me know in that chat. Cool. Thank you. Yay. All right, a bonus habit. So I said 4 of 4, but here's 5 of 4. Are you making the same mistakes over and over again? Do you have a framework to really look at, to evaluate your mistakes and decide if you want to go forward with those same mistakes, or if you want to go with a new decision? Do you have a space to say, I'm on my 3rd marriage. Something's not going right. What do I need to do? So I want to ask, do you have a process for that? So healthy relationships have a process to say, this is not working, or, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Let's keep doing this. Have a process to evaluate. And what I like to encourage, one of the terms that I like to use a lot, is to fail forward. Changing something's not necessarily a bad thing. Go ahead and try it. And if it's not working, cool. Now you have more information. Try something else. Fail forward. Just keep moving forward. And that's how personal development works. You find the things that work for you. Okay. So if you were to implement the things that we just talked about, the 4/5 things, would that help your relationship at all? If you totally screwed up everything that we just talked about and you just changed your mindset a little bit, would that change things in your relationship? I know it did for me. And I'm hopeful that that is true for you as well. So let's talk about some of the results from some of the clients that I work with. One of the things that I get told a lot is that my clients are so thankful that they have a new way of handling their life, and they've set a really positive example for their kids and their family. And that's really impactful, because now you're impacting not just 2 people, but you're impacting the next generation, and hopefully the next generation beyond that, by giving them a very positive way of handling conflict, by being connected, by understanding each other, having a safe place to talk about things. I talked to a colleague, or not a colleague, a client just yesterday, and this is what she said. I never wanted to admit it, but all I ever really wanted was for my sisters to be proud of me. Last week, my old sister asked what had changed in my life, and I just smiled and said QM, quarterly method, because there was such a shift. And don't we want our people to be proud of us? I want my folks to be proud of me. I want my sisters to, be proud of me as well. So that one kind of hit me right in the chest. A lot of productivity, getting a lot done these days. Bucket list items. Oh, people are coming back to me and saying, oh my gosh, I never thought I could do X, and I'm doing it. And that's amazing. That's so awesome. I love when people are thriving. Okay. This one, I've heard this multiple times, that people feel like they screwed up in their previous relationships or time before meeting the quarterly method, and they could have done things so much differently. And I want to encourage people not to beat themselves up, because we only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. So I commend you for being here and learning something new, and I'm really hoping you have some takeaways. And then passion, that seems to be a theme that keeps coming around, which is pretty fun. All right, so what the heck is the quarterly method? What is it? I've been talking about it this whole time. I'm coming up on my hour almost, so I want to make sure I get to it. I love this process. I absolutely love this. Is my bread and butter. So it gives you intentional action to improve your relationship, and it's a process it's a planned and structured conversation. It happens every 3 months. It's a safe place. It's repeatable, which is amazing. A lot can be covered in a very short amount of time. So it saves you time, saves you effort, saves you frustration, helps you. You can avoid the silly stuff, the arguing. We don't need to do that. It breeds trust and security. And it really helps you stop missing out on moments that could be more intimate or more fun. And again, effort is required. It's not a silver bullet, but the steps, the way I show you, they're micro steps, and they're easy. So you can do this. All right, so what is the quarterly method? What I really do, people ask me what I do. What I really do is I help entrepreneurs, I help people, I help couples, I help individuals find their POS. And it's not a piece of shit. It's their personal operating system. Personal operating system. So what is a personal operating system? It is a way to handle all the ups and all the downs that happen in life. We all have life. We all have things that are good and bad. And it's how do we manage those things? How do we keep moving forward? How do we grow? How do we create a really cool atmosphere for our partner, our kids, our siblings, our family, mom and dads? This is a personal operating system. So think about, for business people, it's more like EOS. It's lean. It's being able to have a strategic plan for your personal life, just like you would for your business life. We talk about people, we talk about metrics and data, we talk about the why, the purpose. We talk about what's the culture like in your relationship, how does it feel? And then I'll show you the process here in a second. And you have an opportunity to address issues. We're not all perfect. Man, I'm not perfect. but it gives you a place when those issues arise that you can actually work on them. It's really, really cool. So I'm going to show you here. All right. Personal operating system. So we all have one, whether we admit it or not. We all have one. Some are really good, some are not so good. So what is a personal operating system? Some people will just fly by the seat of their pants. You're just going to wing it. They just know that they have enough confidence that whatever happens, they'll figure it out. That's how they handle it. My mother and other clients, they're constantly surprised about everything that they should know more. And they're always scrambling. It's just chaos, all the time, chaos. Really difficult to have love and intimacy and passion when you're constantly scrambling. I've also addressed this with a couple of my clients, is that they have a fear of just moving forward. They have a fear to make any type of decision. So kind of like a deer in the headlights. That's their personal operating system. Just don't do anything. A little bit closer to my end, more type A, more like anxious, overachiever type, like everything's planned. So that's one way to handle things. We have the procrastinator, we have go with the flow kind, just can't make a decision. Those are all ways to show up in the world. But the quarterly method is a healthy way to show up. So it's a system, and it really brings sanity, clarity, and traction in your life. So it's a way of showing up in the world. It's how do you dream really big and actually meet your dreams. So it allows for positive interaction, it allows for positive communication, it allows for an opportunity to say what's working, what's not working. How do I become better? The quarterly method, the POS, the personal operating system, allows you to be your authentic self, allows you to be who you are and deal with the issues as they come up in your own way. Within the system gives you the steps, and then you bring the content. So it's not a rigid system. It gives you a path, a map, but it really gives you the freedom to grow in your own way. All right, so here's a quick map. This is the map that I usually use in my course. So I will show you here. Usually we start off with figuring out who you are. What makes you tick? What's important to you? We talk about core values, we talk about your personality type, we talk about your love languages. You have to know you before you can express that to anybody else. So we start with that. And then we talk about your North Star vision. And I'll get to that in just a second. But it's 12 different categories. And we talk about anything from, well, I'll just show you here. So we talk about core values. But here we talk about health and fitness and hobbies. We talk about your intellectual growth, your emotional growth, spiritual growth, character, like your core values, like what do you really believe, who you are, love and parenting, social, financial, career moves, and overall quality of life. So we go through all of those things. What's going well, what's not going well, what are some of your goals along those lines? And then we ask ourselves, okay, let's write this down. Let's talk about our strengths. Let's talk about our weaknesses in all of those categories. So each 12 of those categories, we go through and we ask ourselves, what's our strength? What's our weakness? And this is the SWOT analysis for those business people. This is the SWOT, but this is for your personal life. So we go strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? So the O and the T, opportunities, what kind of things could potentially be popping up that are really good in your life? And what are some of the threats? Talked about a threat at the very beginning. My wife's mental health could be a threat to us, could be a threat to her, could be a threat to her job. How do we address that? And then we determine, what are your goals? What do you want? The big stuff, the little teeny stuff. We write it all down. We don't judge. We just put it all down. And then we determine, okay, what are the big chunks? And then how do we break those big chunks down? And then in addition to that, we talk about metrics. So on the business side, we talk about data, we talk about metrics. Metrics at the end of the day just mean, how do you know if you were successful? Yes or no? Successful, not successful. It doesn't have to be a big, elaborate spreadsheet. Just be like, this is what I mean when I say I'm going to do X. Did I do it? Did I not do it? That's a metric. Simple, easy peasy. And then there's a space in this program to address the issues. Talk about the sacred cows. Practice the stop doing list, the tool that I just mentioned to you that you'll have access to. Do the stop doing list. Face reality, talk about the stuff. So there's space in this program for that. And then you have to take action. Journal, take daily action, record the metrics, talk with your partner. It's really cool when you have an accountability partner your partner, your relationship, your spouse can be your accountability partner. Or if you're doing this alone, which some people do, I would say about half of my clientele does this alone. They're individuals. They're doing this for their own life, not necessarily in a relationship. Find another accountability partner, find a group, find a sibling, find somebody that is on the same page as you, and just say, here are my metrics, here are the things that I want to hit. Let's talk about them. And then the cadence. The cadence is every 90 days for the quarterly method. So every 90 days, we talk about all of this stuff. Where are we? What's going well? What's not going well? We evaluate, should we stay on that same track? Should we move the track? Should we pivot a little bit? We create new goals for the next 90 days, 3 months, and we work on those. Those are the action items. And then we come back and we evaluate. Did we do anything? How did that go? And then we reevaluate and keep the cycle going. So as I mentioned, this is the map. So you can see the first blue line is that pre-work, that like knowing yourself. And then you have the yellow line, that's the annual stuff. So that happens at the beginning of the year. So we talk about those big goals. And then you have the gray line. So that's your quarter one. So that's the stuff that we've covered and making sure that you're on track for your first 90 days. At the end of that gray, you see there's like a little explosion, like a little, we want to celebrate our wins. We want to celebrate where we're at. And then we want to take the next step and get into the next quarter. So this is quarter 2, this is quarter 3, and quarter 4, and then we reevaluate and come back to the beginning. So the cadence is every 90 days. You have heavy on the annual, and then each quarter just kind of follows in line. So at the end of the day, the quarterly method it's a proven way to steer your life, your marriage, your health, your wealth, all 12 categories that you want to accomplish in your life. And we're gonna, so the biggest hurdle that I run into is that one partner is on board and the other partner isn't. That's okay. You can only control yourself. You can't control your partner. So what I say to that is, you get to control your own thoughts. You get to control your own emotions. You get to control your own actions. You get to make your own choices. So if this is interesting to you and you want to progress, I say go for it. You're going to benefit from it. Your relationship's going to benefit from it because you're going to show up differently. And then many times what I see is like one partner will go through it, they really get involved and they love it, and then they pull the other partner in because the other partner sees the change. Change how you show up every day. Be responsible for you. Cool. All right, so we have covered a lot today. I still have a few minutes, very few. I gave you a little tough love today. I hope this was valuable. So what are the next steps? If you think I can help you, you just want to find out, there's no obligation. Grab a slot on my calendar. We'll have a chat. If I can't help you, I will try to refer you to somebody that can, and we'll figure out where we're at. So I use a QR code, so it's a little easier for some people to just scan it on the screen. So you can scan that QR code and it will take you right to my calendar. And give you just a couple seconds there. For those of you who stayed on all the way to the end, yes, I want to make sure that you do get your bonus. Here's another QR code. This QR code is separate. This code is going to take you to a landing page, which is going to give you that PDF and the tool. So make sure you scan this or write down the link. So I'll give you just a few seconds for that. Cool. All right. So questions. Again, this QR code will take you to a phone call. And a question came in, what if I work with you, what should I expect? Fantastic question. So what we do first is figure out where you're at. I can't give a blanket that this is how it's going to go exactly, because I don't know your scenario. I don't know exactly what you're looking for. I don't know what your relationship looks like. What we'll do is we'll get on the phone, we'll talk about where you're at, and then we'll decide if working with me one-on-one, putting you in a group coaching class, or potentially doing an intensive is right for you. You get to make that call. It's your life. It's totally up to you. But what does that look like? It looks like having conversations with me, keeping you on track, show you how to do the process. I give you all the tools to do the process. And then we reevaluate together, make sure that you're understanding the process and making sure that we're addressing any of the issues that might be coming up. So I hope that answers that question. Other questions? Let's see here. So is this a group program? I do have a group program. It's only for select individuals who want to contribute to a group. Many times what I find is people are nervous about sharing what's going on in their relationship, and I completely respect that. So I also have opportunities to work one-on-one. I have opportunities to work individually with check-ins with me. So it really depends on what's going on in your world. And I'm really happy to discuss what fits best for you when we get on the call. I don't want to put you in a situation where you're uncomfortable. That won't be fruitful. That's not a good situation for either of us. So once we get on the call, we'll figure out what's best for you. And like I said, if I can't help you, I refer you. If I can't help you, we figure out what scenario and what does that look like. And then, of course, if my partner doesn't want to participate, no problem. Be responsible for yourself. Like I said, about half of my clients are doing this on their own. And I'm going to stop my share here so you can see me a little bit better. So about half of my clients are doing this on their own because they want to show up differently in their life. And this is a personal operating system. So it works for couples. It also works for individuals. So show up for yourself and your partner will see the difference. And many times I see that individuals will go through the program and then they pull their partner in with them the second time around. And then they have an accountability partner throughout the process. All right, any other questions? Happy to answer whatever I can in the short amount of time that I have left. All right. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for staying a few minutes over. I will be sending out a replay in case you missed anything. I know I went through a lot of slides and pretty quickly. So if you need to take a look at some of those slides and slow it down, you'll be able to hit the pause button. In the meantime, I'll looking forward to talking with some of you, and thanks much. Take care.